this is a decentralized network, an asset without an issuer, it's special, and there's no second best, there's no other thing. And so I've said, if it's not going to zero, it's going to 1 million. The point really is every public company in the world is capitalized on euro debt or US dollar debt for 100 years. And now you have a commodity that's a scarcity that it's legal to capitalize a public company on. If you can capitalize a company on an asset that's appreciating 55% a year, and if the S&P is appreciating 12 or 13% a year, and if the after-tax return of euro debt, the euro one-year rate was 200 basis points when I last checked, and SOFR's 400. So if you're capitalized on stuff that's got an after-tax yield of 2 to 3%, you're 10% less than the cost of capital. So ergo, every company in the world is capitalized on a capital asset that's bleeding 10% of their economic value every year. And this is the first time we've got one that is positively yielding. And we've only known that without debate. Truth is, what settled the debate? The SEC approving Bitcoin ETFs in January, followed by the embrace of Bitcoin by the Trump administration, followed by the designation that it is the unique digital commodity in the world by David Sachs in March. That's how long, plus followed by the accounting profession mandating fair value accounting, and the Secretary of the Treasury telling banks, and the banks, not just in the US, but by inference, every bank in the world is being directed to start banking Bitcoin by the head of the Treasury, the FDIC, and the OCC. So all of that dates to November 5th of last year. So we're really we're not at the end of the year one. We're in year one of institutional adoption, the inflection point where it's pretty clear it's not going to zero. And it's pretty clear that it's at least as valuable as gold. But no one can capitalize on gold, so it must be 10 times more valuable than gold. Nobody can stop it. No one wants to stop it. And yet 99% of corporate executives don't appreciate it.
Your quote with "there is no second best," was that a spontaneous thing, or did you think about that and that you wanted to plant that in an interview?
Most of the things that I'm famous for, I was made famous for by the cyber hornets, by all the Bitcoin maxis and and the hornets out there in cyberspace. They decided that. They're the ones that clip that. They clip it, they amp it, they speed it up, they put music to it. It's all their ideas. Look, even this orange tie, this was not my idea. This is LaDozier's idea. He basically decided he wanted to create images of me. Then he created an AI to create images. Then he decided to give me an orange tie. I literally woke up this morning and I saw someone generated a picture of me in a black suit with an orange tie, and I'm like, that's what I got to wear today.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the best ideas, they really come from the Bitcoin community. And, I might have said it, but they endorsed it and told me it was a good thing. So then I said it again.
One of the insights that really resonated with me, because I see it in my own work basically every day, is that Bitcoin is there if you need it. And there's many different needs for Bitcoin, but when it comes to corporates and even nation states, you said that 99% don't see it yet. That is true. But it feels like in Europe, even less than 99%, or even more than 99% don't see it yet. Why are we lagging in Europe?
All the second sons of nobles in Europe came to the United States.
It's true.
Why? Because it was hopeless for, or maybe it was the third son or the second or the third. But if you feel like your path to success is blocked, then you get on a ship and you risk your life and you go to the New World. And that's a metaphor. But the people that embrace Bitcoin first are people who either felt that their path to success was blocked by the conventional world or the traditional world, or it was hopeless, or they're staring at a certain death. And so I think that the people that get it first, they're the, you know, the teenagers, the 20-somethings. Every time I go to a conference full of wealthy people, it's always the sons of the billionaires who know me. Like, I'm very famous with rich kids. All the rich kids in the world know me. You know, all of them. They're like, you know, could you convince my grandma to buy Bitcoin, or my dad? You know, I want you to talk to my dad and explain to him. So it's the 20-somethings, and they're looking for the next thing, or it's the zombie companies, or it's the meta planets. It's like, I had a hotel chain, it's going bankrupt, I'm dead. You know, it's the people that have a terminal illness. So they're all very motivated to open their mind to a new idea. I think that if you're comfortable and happy, you're not. And the problem is, I mean, it's a very comfortable life here, right? Sure. A lot of Europe is very comfortable. That there are beautiful buildings that were built by people 1,000 years ago or 500 years ago.
Those were the kings that sent their sons to America.
It's like, so there's a lot of beautiful things, a comfortable climate, comfortable everything. You have to be uncomfortable to embrace a new idea, or you have to feel like your path to success is blocked. So well-run, successful companies will be the last and last to embrace this. The people that will embrace it will be the ones that have a gun to their head, or they feel their back is against the wall, or they have nothing to lose, or they're desperate, or occasionally you get an inspirational figure. But
are you surprised by how many companies have boarded the train now in the US, or are you disappointed, or know what I'm?
No, I think I'm actually pleasantly surprised. It's going a bit faster than I had thought. You know, there was one, and then there were two in 2020. And last I checked, there were like 140 or 150 on the Bitcoin standard. And I saw someone say there's 270 crypto public companies that have some kind of crypto on their balance sheet or something. So maybe I'm undercounting. I think I'm undercounting because I'm just discovering some every day that have Bitcoin that I didn't even know about. I think that the inflection point was November 5th of last year. If you had to point to one, this entire industry was waiting to see whether the securities regulators would embrace it, whether the banking regulators would embrace it, whether the commodities regulators would embrace it. And I think we knew the answer. We knew we were going to win in 2020, but it was going to be a long, grinding battle of attrition to win, but we knew we were going to win. But I think after November 5th, it became like a landslide obvious. It's like, okay, the entire government flipped. The Senate's pro-Bitcoin, the House is pro-Bitcoin, the Cabinet is pro-Bitcoin. The head of the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, the healthcare, the Department of Health and Human Services, they're all pro-Bitcoin. All the financial regulators are pro-Bitcoin. And everybody else in the world, every other regulator takes their cues from the U.S. Even if they claim they don't. Even the enemies of the U.S., the Russians, the Chinese, anybody that's deemed to be a political competitor, they still actually take their cues from the U.S. So if the U.S. embraces this as a digital commodity, Hong Kong flips, China flips, Russia flips, everybody flips. And the dominoes are falling pretty rapidly for the past 6 months.
So not only in Bitcoin, but especially in other topics, the strategy here in Europe seems to be to whine and moan about Trump not being a very nice guy, and then do exactly what he wants. So we should see the same thing probably in financial markets at some point here in Europe.
I think that the European markets are catching fire. If you look at the results of Blockchain Group or Smarter Web Company or H100. There's just a lot of Bitcoin treasury companies popping up here. There's probably going to be one unicorn, or superstar in every single market that catches fire and grows 100% plus a year, or hyper growth. And then you'll see a dozen other that will follow it. And I think they will do it because the equity capital markets in Europe are moribund, and the credit markets in Europe are weaker than the U.S. Right? I mean, the U.S. credit market is 4% interest or 4.20 for a 1-year bond, but in Europe it's like 2.20. So basically you're not getting any yield if you're a credit investor, and the equity's based upon growth, but all equities valued based upon future expectations of fiat cash flows. And if you're not growing fast, then the equity is going to be weak and illiquid. And the dirty secret is there's 50,000 public companies. The 500 greatest ones are in the S&P 500. Most of them are US based. And then of the 500, 493 of them are failing, and there's 7 that are winning. And so the dirty secret is, out of 50,000 companies, there's the number you can count on one hand or two hands at any given time that are winning, and everybody else is just trying to keep up, right? And how do you win? You need a digital monopoly, right? If you happen to have a digital monopoly and you can sell something to 1 billion people, then you're going to win. And that's what Meta is, and Google and Apple and Microsoft. They're all digital monopolies. They're more powerful than governments, right? And so now, if you're one of the 400 million private companies or one of the 50,000 not digital monopoly monster companies, how do you win? You know, and the answer is you basically merge with a digital monopoly bolted onto your capital structures. You ever see that movie you ever see X-Men, you know, where you see the Wolverine and he starts out as just a normal dude, and then they actually fill him with the adamantium and they give him indestructible exoskeleton, and that makes him the Wolverine? Well, Bitcoin is that. Like, you're this normal dude, and what you want to be is indestructible, supermortal, or superhuman. And I'm telling you, what you do is you basically infuse the capital structure of the company with digital energy or digital capital, and that turns you in, you know, from a $10 million dying hotel company into an $8 billion monster, right? And so I think it's a matter of time before people that realize, like, you can't fly, you don't have laser eyes, you're not indestructible, and Apple and Microsoft are. And your choice is, you know, you can be like one of those. We have this, the mere mortals in the TV series The Boys. You guys see The Boys, where the superheroes are all bad and they actually just beat up on all the mortals. Like, you can either be crushed underfoot by evil superheroes, or you could take Compound V and you become the superhero. Or in this case, Compound B, right? So I think it's one of those things where at some point the company says, well, I'm not going to be Apple and Google, and I'm either going to be crushed to death or I'm going to be a superhero. And then Bitcoin comes along and Bitcoin offers to make you a superhero. And so take Compound B, and what happens? You take $50 million, you buy Bitcoin with it, you have a $50 million business growing 60% a year. There's not a single company in Europe growing 60% a year, right? I don't think there's, well, not that I bet you if we look at all of the companies with a market cap of $1 billion or €1 billion or more in Europe, I would be shocked if there's one that's growing 60% a year. And yet every single company in Europe, if they simply recapitalized to Bitcoin, would be bolting on a company growing 60% a year to whatever size of their balance sheet is. And then once you've done that, the aha moment is now you can issue equity or credit instruments, recycle it back into Bitcoin, and grow 100% a year.